Hello, I'm Rushia Brown, and welcome to Real and True, a series on financial literacy brought to you by Edyoucore Sports and Entertainment. This honest dialogue will focus on true financial successes and nightmares of athletes and entertainers. First, I would like for you to introduce yourselves, who you are and what you do.
I'm Codie Elaine Oliver. This is Tommy Oliver, my husband. And we run two businesses, Black Love Inc. It's a media company, and Confluential Films, a full television and TV production company.
Which we are the co-chairs of, and I'm the founder and CEO.
All of that.
So that's fun. Love and business working together. So we'll get some more into that conversation and see how that pans out. But let's go back to the beginning of what some would deem success. Tell me about what you did with your first big check and how did it feel?
I learned very early on with this guy, long before there was a Black Love, that we would be reinvesting.
That is exactly right. And so we didn't buy anything big or small. There was no celebration. There was no anything. It was a very much, we're going to put the money back into the business as we continue to bet on ourselves.
Because of entertainment, a big check sometimes comes very seldom.
When you get something with a lot of zeros on it, how does that change your self-perception when you've worked so hard for something and you're finally being valued by others?
It doesn't change mine at all. My perception is not for sale. What we're doing, the value of it is the value that I and we place on it. And our job is to figure out how to make sure that it's commensurate with what the check says.
Looking back, would you guys have done anything differently?
The only thing I would do differently is probably hire earlier, like build my team earlier so that we could grow just more strategically.
So as you've moved forward and you've had the success that you've had, what would be some of your best financial decisions and a worst financial decision?
The best financial decision is reinvesting in our companies in our projects. And so Black Love is a series that we own completely. And it's because we financed it and we put our money up to make it happen.
My best financial decision was choosing him.
Oh, I love that.
I'm not joking because he is very smart and strategic financially, and I knew that early on.
So what about the worst? Neither of you can think of a worst financial decision?
We made a lot of money in crypto, and there was a point where we took a little bit out when the market dipped, which is just stupid because you're just locking in your losses.
Coming from Black households, share with me one of the first money lessons that you've learned from a family member or friend.
I love my family. I learned so much more of what not to do from them though. My cousin, who's like my sister, we're the same age, we were given $10 allowance. And she spent her $10 and I decided to spend some of it and save 6 of it. And then when it came time for the next time to get allowance, she got 10 and I got 4. It made no sense. And so the decisions that we make when kids are young, it helps to shape their spending habits, their saving habits.
I mean, for me, I have very little to report, meaning I didn't really learn. There was no conversation around money.
The fact that there weren't many conversations about finances and financial literacy or education, that just speaks to the stigma around the financial discussion in the Black community. Why do you think that is?
I think that it's often quite hard to think about financial planning or the future when you're operating from a place of scarcity.
Historically, that has been required, right, to just survive.
That contributed in a huge way to not having generational wealth or not being on par with other folks. Mm-hmm. And so there are all these things that you are dealing with that just don't go away overnight.
But I think a lot of people and a lot of institutions are working to create conversation in our community.
Why do you think financial education is important? And even more so, why is it important to you?
I think financial education and financial literacy is unbelievably important. it is a core tenet in our lives, because money is a thing that permeates so much of what we do or what we can't do.
The reason is because there has been a stigma for so long. The reason is because every generation is trying to do better than the last. And when I say better, I don't just mean financially. I mean as far as communication and as far as pouring into our youth. And so in order to do that, we are truly trying to learn.
Do you think financial mishaps should be shared? Do you guys think that it actually helps to protect
Absolutely.
them?
Yeah, I do.
I think they should be shared entirely, but there's also this embarrassment around it. But for me, you gotta, if you're not willing to confront what happened, you're not gonna learn.
If there was one piece of advice you guys could give yourselves, what would it be?
Invest as soon as possible, and invest with a long-term strategy. If you're able to do that consistently, and so not just that one time, that you do it every single check, it'll be the sort of thing that will make a big difference.
Let's talk about how Black couples and finances engage. What's the largest role, you think finance plays in the relationship?
Part of the reason that we created the series in the first place is because of this media portrayal of the Black marriage crisis, that the divorce rate was higher in the Black community. When ultimately what we learned was that the reason that the divorce rate was higher in the Black community is because the divorce rate is higher among lower income couples, and Black people over-index in being, in low income families. The statistic had nothing to do with the fact that we were Black. It wasn't melanin that made us get divorced. It was money. The reality is it's something that needs to be discussed. It's something that you need to align on as early as you can.
Just the lack of conversation itself could be damaging.
Yeah.
So have you ever seen with any of your Black love interviews how the lack of discussion around finances has caused problems?
Flex and Shanice very publicly went bankrupt. They had no financial education. Then they get famous, have a little bit of money, and then him in particular, trying to take care of her.
Going out buying really nice things because he thought that's what he was supposed to do, and thought that's what she wanted when she didn't really care all that much.
She didn't really care, and she of course thought, well, if he's doing it, then we got it. That's all lack of communication, conversation, lack of expectation management. So hopefully instead of other people going through that, they can see that example and have those conversations earlier on.
Tommy, you kept saying we reinvested in ourselves, but what conversations went into the financing and having to understand what content ownership would look like? Because I'm sure that was a major investment.
We had one argument early on in our relationship. That was that conversation about whatever little money we had, are we about to put it into a savings account? Are we about to invest it by optioning a script or two or something, whatever it was he wanted to do at the time? That ultimately ended with me okay, I'm gonna trust my husband. That's what I'm supposed to do, right?
After that, she saw the benefits of it.
That sounded like the short-term sacrifices that led to long-term gains.
All day. I don't really care about the short term.
No, he does not.
I don't. And so we are benefiting from the decisions that we made 5 years ago.
And I think at the end of the day, if anyone takes anything from this conversation, it is being patient and understanding that it is about the long term.
Is there anything else that you would advise to a young couple, elderly couple regarding finances?
Educate yourself. Think about how much time you spend doing other things that have absolutely no impact on your life. You just waste a lot of time. And if you were to spend just a tiny amount of that time doing something that would actually benefit you, it's so worth it.
Thank you for joining us and removing the stigma of discussing finances. We encourage you to continue these discussions on social media as well as in your homes. For more information on the importance of financial literacy and educational resources, follow Edyoucore on all social media platforms and check out our website. Once again, I am Rushia Brown. Be real, be true.